and re-watch this if they're absent. Maybe a few people will. So we'll start recording. But yeah, volume shadow copy service is really, really cool to have. And make sure that you get backups of files that are open on the system. Can definitely save your day. And let's read some downfalls. There is a command prompt version of backup that you can use for scripting. And down here, there's different ways that you can back up. There's actually a custom backup option of being allowed to back up files or folders. I think in 2012, you couldn't back up files and folders. You had to back up you only had full server backup. But it looks like 2016 may have added some extra options here. You need a full server backup, backs up everything. Bare metal recovery, just the operating system portion. Basically your C drive and your UEFI partition and stuff is backed up. I don't see how that's really important because you could always just reinstall the operating system. The bare metal though likely would put the SID back on there too, the same SID, so it would come back up with the same computer name and security ID and be able to participate in Active Directory the same way it did before the system crashed. You can also restore the system state, and that is Active Directory itself. I've had issues with the system state being backed up, and I've tried to restore it on 2016 server. I've not been successful in 2016 server and server backup to restore the system state. It's failed every single time. It's worked on every prior version from server 2000 through 2012 R2. I've done it on every single one of them. As soon as 2016 came about, it's no longer been able to restore. I don't know why I have not been able to figure out how to fix it. And that's kind of bad if your Active Directory dies and goes away. You have individual volumes and folders and files that you can back up. So because the system state here, the Active Directory itself, I've not been successful at doing a restore on it. The workaround that I've done and in the blog postings and stuff, the big workaround for that is to launch the Active Directory Administrative Center, not the Active Directory users and computers, but Active Directory Administrative Center, and enable the recycle bin. And that is something I don't remember if we've done that this semester or not. August was a little bit of time ago. So launching Administrative Center, clicking on your domain and checking over under the task options over here, you have the enable recycle bin option, which would allow you to recover deleted items, which is one of the main purposes of backing up the system state itself, is to recover things that you've accidentally deleted, user accounts, groups, stuff like that. So enable that is a one-time deal, and it enables it Active Directory forest-wide. And then you're done. So at that point in time, you can't really delete anything. It goes to recycle bin. You can go to the recycle bin and restore it. And that's the workaround for system state restore is not working. So that's a tip for you. Just I ran into that firsthand. Where can you put the stuff? You can put the backups on an internal disk. Why would you want to do that? What happens if a tornado blows your server away? Your internal disk probably flew away with it. It probably didn't just stay there. You might be able to take the internal disk out and carry it somewhere else, though. That may be a reason for backup. An external disk. Yep. Backup external movable disk that you can take and relocate. Shared folder. Hey, that may be even another city. You could back up to a shared folder. You can connect to Azure and back up to the Microsoft Cloud. So that's kind of cool. Some other quirks in here. The old version of server backup, I think, is called server backup instead of Windows Server Backup. I think it's just called server backup. Somewhere around 2008 R2, they switched over to Windows Server Backup, and they removed the ability to back up to tape drive, USB devices, and CD-ROMs and stuff. They took all that ability away. They said they improved the product. Like, how does that improve the product? But you can no longer put backups to tape. You can no longer, you have to buy a third party. Some companies still use tape, robotic tapes and stuff for backing up. It's pretty old technology. But there's some data centers that still require in-house robotic tape backup just because of their scale, capacity, and size and speed of the internet and things like that. Sheer number of servers they got to back up. So certain servers to back up. The main controller. Make sure you back up the system state regularly is what it says. Although I've not been able to restore it from 2016. I've not tried 2019 server to see if it would back up and restore. Maybe they fixed it by then. File server. Probably you just want to back up the data volume. You may not even care about the operating system. As long as you got the files, you can always restore those onto another system and reshare out everything. So real critical to get the data itself. And server 3, in that case, would be the E drive. I think some of y'all have different drive letters assigned to yours, but it'd be that second drive is the only thing you'd want to back up, because you could reinstall core and set that up real quick and restore that data back to a second drive, reshare all the stuff out. It wouldn't be that catastrophe of a loss. People care about their data. The DHCP server, it actually backs up every hour by itself. And it puts it in Windows System 32 DHCP backup folder. So you go and copy the files out of that folder, and now you've got the backup of your DHCP server, just that one folder's contents. I've had to do that before. If you ever have to upgrade a system and you're going to decommission your DHCP server, you just go grab the files out of that backup folder, put them on a thumb drive, and shut the system down, start up a new system, and then restore that backup to the new DHCP server. And all the configurations will pop into place and it'll start working just like the old one did. DNS is typically Active Directory integrated, so if you back up the system state, you get it. If you're running a non-Active Directory integrated one, there's a backup folder under DNS or System 32 DNS backup, and you can grab it. But if you're running Microsoft, I really don't think you'll probably want to run it unless it's Active Directory integrated. Let's go look at server backup. So access your server 1 desktop. And once you access your desktop, looks like everybody's about there. Server backup can be found under the tools menu. It's at the very bottom. It's Windows Server Backup. So alphabetically, it's the last one in the list. You may even have to scroll down to launch it. Backup your important data to a local or online location. Backup your important files, applications, or entire server to a locally attached device or network. Share using Windows Server Backup. Windows Server Backup is not installed on this computer. Install Windows Server Backup. From the Server Manager, select Add Roles and Features and follow the wizard to select the Windows Server Backup feature. So do you see any option here for us to back up? You just see this message. What should we do? Add role is what I heard. Actually, it specifically says add feature instead of add role. So it's probably not under roles. It's probably under the feature section. We'll go ahead and do that. You can close down the backup tool and go ahead and add your role. You should be able to accomplish that without any help. We'll do it for server 1. If you'll notice, you won't find it in roles. You'll only find it under features.
Did you click the role-based or feature-based installation or the desktop service installation?
Well, read the options and figure out which one you think. Read the error message in your server backup too. I've used some critical thinking on that. And also what we've done all semester too. If you mess up, it just won't work. Hey, why is that coming up again? That was weird. Once the installation finishes, and then you can launch your Windows Server Backup tool again from the Tools menu. Why do you have IIS and all kind of other stuff installed? Okay, so server backup.
Because I don't know. Maybe I was just trying to one time I was behind and I was trying to catch up, so I was just clicking some random things and installing just to try to help catch up, I guess.
All right. Okay, so server backup should launch. And we're going to run let's just try a one-time backup just to look at what's in here for one-time backup. So scheduled backup, choose if we have created a scheduled backup and you want to use the same settings or not, so it's grayed out. So we've got different options. We hit the backup once, so just click next. The only thing we can do on this screen other than cancel. You can do a full server backup recommended, backs up everything, all volumes and all, or we can do a custom. Let's go ahead and do custom. And go next. So on the custom backup, we have both the add items and advanced settings. I always like to see what advanced settings has. And click on it. And it talks about volume shadow copy. And this here is talking about if you're using other backup programs on the system, you can modify the radio button. Exclusions, you can exclude backing up certain things, maybe like log files and stuff, or things you don't want to back up. I'm going to hit cancel. There's no real changes I want to do under advanced settings. I'm going to click add items and see what I got under add items button. So this is where it gives me the option that I can back up the core operating system, bare metal recovery. I can back up the system state, which is Active Directory. I can back up just the UEFI BIOS partition. I could back up the entire C drive. I could back up the recovery partition, or I could expand these out and pick, say, a particular folder and put a checkbox by it to back up that particular folder and its files. So I would not have to back up everything. So we're just kind of looking at options. I'm going to uncheck the users and just leave the system state checked. I'm not actually going to back it up, but we're going to go ahead and get to the end of this dialog box and see what all settings that we've got to do in here. But I'll click that. One thing about the system state, say you are running 2019 and hey, restoring works in that version with no errors, or you're running an older 2012 and system restore and stuff works. The system state can only be restored if it's less than 60 days old. Once it's past 60 days old, you can't restore a domain controller and recover any lost data. You just have to set up a domain controller and join it to the domain. So restoring a system state means you're trying to restore user accounts that have been deleted in the past, and you want to mark those as something called authoritative, so that they get re-pushed out to all of the other domain controllers in your network. The other reason for system state is all your domain controllers have died, and you want to bring your forest and domain back. So you have to install an OS and then restore Active Directory to that new server so that it brings the domain back. Okay, I'll go next. We can click on remote because we don't have another local drive. It won't even let us back up to anything. So next, put in a folder location, like server 3 and public. One of them on there. And then as I go next, it's going to say, hey, we want to confirm everything. I said we're not going to actually back up anything, but that's how that you'd go in, like pick the system state, or if you go in and pick a file or folder. I'm going to go ahead and cancel at this point and not actually make a backup.
Mine won't even let me back up.
Something's wrong with mine too. I don't know if I missed something, but
I went in and installed it. It just says a fatal error has occurred during a Windows Server backup snap-in operation.
Yeah, close
an
this window and open it again is what it says right there.
Yeah, I did it like 3 times. And it's
I've
still
even
doing it.
refreshed. Mine says the same thing. I've refreshed and I've opened it up again and it says the same thing.
It said a error was detected in volume shadow copy service.
I don't even have volume shadow copy service on. That's weird. Close it and open it again. I want to see.
Close. Let me refresh.
Yeah. What's the flag there? What's your notification?
I had a failed auto refresh earlier.
Yeah, close it out.
I'll make sure.
Okay, go back to tools and launch it again. It looks like maybe you missed the security patches we installed. That may be what's the reason we installed.
Oh yeah, mine bugged. You remember mine bugged out?
Yeah.
It may, yeah. So it probably didn't work.
That may be why it's messing up with that.
It's a very fair point.
Could also be you just need to restart server 1, but I don't know. It's not that critical. Let me see what Haley's is showing. They're showing the same thing.
Yeah, mine's doing the same thing.
That's weird. Click on the top. Click on Windows Server Backup at the top. Okay. Yeah, that's odd. What's going on with that? It could possibly be, you know, a reboot might fix that problem, but it's not clear. We're not actually going to back up.
Okay.
Did anybody else have that? It was just Haley and Jeremiah. If you for some reason weren't able to install that cumulative update, that could be the issue. If y'all don't have a patch that fix some bugs. Very good likelihood that may be the issue on that. Okay, so I'm going to go over other products other than server backup. I mean, other third-party products will have the ability to back up the system state and other things just like you've seen in this server backup tool. It seems like 2012 only allowed you to back up the full volume. You couldn't go in and select individual folders. I don't remember the advanced option allowing you to select individual folders. 2016, it looks like they've added that back in. I don't have a 2012 to go back and verify that, but pretty sure 2012 didn't allow you to back up anything else other than an entire drive, which seemed kind of odd to me. Some third-party backups that you're likely to run into when you get out into the real world is Aomi backup is one possible product. It's designed for Windows, both home and server. And Aomi also should have one for enterprise. You do have price tags on them. $199 is not too bad. But you got to look, is that for one system? So that was backup server. We have an edition comparison. Let's check out these different ones. Windows PC, Windows PC, Windows PC and server for business use. Where's for enterprise use? I don't see anywhere in here we're backing up virtualization stuff. So maybe that's why I don't see this one as often as the other one I'm about to show you. I only see this one backing up Windows PCs. This other one though, Veeam backup and replication is backup and recovery for any app, any data across any cloud. That's a lot of any's. So cloud backup, you can back up to AWS, Azure. Comprehensive backup software for all workloads. So AWS, Azure, IBM Cloud, VMware, Hyper-V, Citrix Zen maybe, Windows, Linux, Unix, Active Directory, Microsoft SQL Server, Exchange Server, SharePoint, whatever SAP HANA is, Oracle, Postgres, MySQL. So they aren't just stuck with one thing. You back up lots and lots of stuff. They also have something called Veeam1 that can be integrated with the backup program, and it can give you nice reporting on any type of misconfiguration throughout all of the servers that you connect to. And it can also give you a nice charting of any type of backup issues that are going on. Pricing. Let's see if we can do a calculator and see what this thing might cost us. VMware. How many VMware servers are we going to have? Let's say we have 4 VMware servers. And that's all we're on to back up. We'll want Veeam Availability Suite. With monitoring and everything. We'll do pricing for 3 years. We'll do public sector. And our calculator says we need 10 licenses for some reason, and the contact sales for pricing. Well, that's great stuff. Okay, well, there's no quick way to see what the public cost would be on this. But here at the university, you know, we get substantial discounts on software licensing because we're education. And we spent over $30,000 for Veeam. So that's a pretty substantial price thing, and it could set up to back up. I don't remember just how many systems that we had to back up. We could back up a certain number of Hyper-V systems and a certain number of VMware systems. You can also get a free version of it to back up. And I'll show you a free version. It doesn't have all the cool scheduling things that you need for enterprise. You have to do this stuff manually. Now we're way past break time. Let's take a break. Okay, so I am back from break. I did have a Windows 2012 server. I didn't realize, forgot about that. I'm going to check to see if server backup's installed. I doubt that it's installed, but I have another server backup program running. It might be installed.
Hey, Mr. Goodman,
Yes?
I don't have Windows. I don't have this version of Windows on my virtual machine.
What are you talking about?
This is not Windows 10. This is Windows 7.
You have Windows 7?
No, I do not.
I'm still not understanding what you're trying to tell me.
I don't have this installed for a virtual machine. I can't I don't know.
Are you
I
talking
don't know how
about
to
a
keep up
2012
with you.
server? The college's 2012 server that you don't have installed? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes.
Yeah, you won't have the college's server installed on your computer at home. Okay, it looks like you can back up individual files on there. Okay, so the Veeam is what I was wanting to show y'all. This tool is something you'll likely run into out in the wild. So we launch it, and it is kind of like a client server style product. And I am running the free version of it. And I'll launch and show you what it looks like. And today or yesterday was Patch Tuesday, so all the computers are probably churning in the background. I hear a lot of hard drives churning. They're probably installing Windows updates. Your home computers will probably be starting to give you little notifications. Hey, you need to restart Windows. I'm running a community edition. Of course, they're all advertising. How do you go buy it and get more support? And it just said there's a new version, 10.0 is out. I'm likely not going to install it on here. We're looking at getting a new server pretty soon anyway. You know, a server that was 2015, new one. Because this one's from 2004, I think. So maybe 2006. I don't, not real sure. This right here is the Veeam product. Looks kind of similar to the paid version. One of the things, you have an inventory and you attach your virtual infrastructure. I've got Hyper-V infrastructure connected in it, which is simply the local host. May not be a good thing to have everything on one system, but if I look at the local host here, I can see all of the virtual machines that are running on the local host. I can look up the backup infrastructure. This here is that you add in. Well, it shows all of the managed servers that you've got connected into it. What's this missing? It's missing an update. Well, probably just means you need to install Windows updates. You can add in, when you got commercial, you can add in service providers like AWS, Azure, adding in your external repositories and stuff. I probably don't have that ability with the free version. This one is for AWS, S3 bucket. Of course, I don't have one set up, so I can't save anything. And that allows you to back up to the cloud, which is pretty nice. We do back up to the cloud in over the State Hall building. We have an S3 bucket. It costs literally less than $1, cents and stuff to back up about a virtual machine. If you get one that's get up in the terabyte size, you may be running into the $1 or $2 to back it up. Back it up once a week, I mean, you start looking at monthly costs there, but it's pretty cheap to back up. It's more expensive to pull them down. It's probably like 5 times, 10 times more expensive to pull it down. It's really cheap to send it up to the cloud. What I have set up, I have a couple of local backup repositories set. They are on a NAS, and that is external to the server. I have a 1.8 terabyte capacity folder, and then I have nearly an 8 terabyte, well, because of rounding, at 7.2 terabyte capacity. And currently I have 4.2 terabytes free. I've used up 3 terabytes of information for backing up. So that all had to be pre-set up first. So there's a place to put the data. That's one thing. You connect to the servers that you want to back up. And then you make a connection to the destination that you want the backups to be stored. And this has the ability to back up to tape, which server backup doesn't have. And then I've created and set up backup jobs. And this leaf is probably the smallest one right here. So we'll look at an edit on it. I've also got history of what's been backed up. So when I've run through the wizard, I added in a virtual machine. You just simply go add virtual machines. You can pick multiples at a time if you want, back up several. But each server I had its own job for, so I could back up just one at a time. The storage location, I got to pick where it was going to go because I already pre-configured the destination, so it allows you to have the drop-ins selectable. How many restore points do I want to keep on disk? Only 2. So when it starts backing up the third one, it will delete one of them automatically. Supposed to work that way. And it shows I can even run a schedule. I didn't think I could schedule with the free version, but I'm going to go ahead and cancel that out. Well, that job is all set up. I'm simply going to right click and start the job. The last run looked like 118 days ago. So I'm really up on making sure my systems are backed up. Why did it look like Brian was laughing at me? Hey, Brian's laughing at me
Why?
because I haven't backed up in 118 days. You thought that was funny?
I mean, he's kind of right.
And y'all are agreeing with him. Yeah, you should probably agree with him. The paid version, yes, we do have it all set up to where that they're scheduled to back up and they do back up to the cloud. So it's going to analyze the virtual machine. Once it finishes analyzing, it will start to run and transmit stuff across to the NAS. Guess make sure that the NAS is still connected. Yep, it's still connected. And that was done in June. When were these done? These were done in 2019. These are older backups. Yeah, well, of course they're older backups. They're over a year old. I don't think it's counting these in the how many to keep though. And now it's created a file for today. It's got a metadata file that keeps track of what's been backed up and the contents of them. Well, this here is a lot more common process of backing up. I'm not backing up individual folders. I'm not backing up individual bare metal operating system restores. I'm backing up the entire virtual machine. So if a catastrophe happens, I can restore the virtual machine to a comparable hypervisor, whether it be a VMware or Hyper-V, and I should be able to just click play and start the server up from anywhere. Would even probably have the ability to restore it into an Azure cloud and start the virtual machine up into Azure or Rackspace or something. If my business got completely destroyed by a hurricane, fire, flood, whatever, and it was backed up to the cloud, then you could restore it to anywhere in the world. Well, look at this process. It's still kind of sitting there. Building a list of machines process. Virtual machine is allocated 1.2 terabytes. It's only consuming 36 gig. Change block tracking is enabled. So that should mean when it backs up, it's only going to back up the blocks that have changed over the last 118 days. And the other blocks that have not changed over 118 days, it will not back them up. So now we're starting to transfer data. What I'm looking at here, we've got a Veeam, so it got backed up on the 10th of June. We did an incremental backup on the 18th. It found 2.5 gig of changes from the 10th. So now we're backing up again. It's going to back up only the changes that's happened since the 18th of this year. So if you only back up the changed blocks, it's a whole lot faster. And let's explain. Have y'all ever covered incremental versus full backups or differential backup types in the past? Say in hardware, software, or anywhere in test out? Anybody? No? Let's see if I can get my drawing tool. Yeah, okay, so I got my drawing tool. Okay, my full backup. I'll draw on the screen. Full backup. We'll back up all data. All data. When you implement incremental backups, this is what I've showed you. You can also see the sizes here on the screen. An incremental backup, the next time the backup is run, it looks at all the data that you backed up before, and it compares the data that's been backed up in the past to what the current computer system has, and any changes, it'll back up only the changes. So that's incremental I. The next time that you run a backup, it again, it looks at all your data, and it also looks up what was backed up in the last incremental, and it compares, is there anything different from all the data, and also take into account what you've already backed up. If this data hasn't changed, we don't need to back it up again. So the next time it may only back up, say, that much. Maybe you're lazy on Tuesday, or maybe this is Wednesday, something like that. Thursday, a little bit busier on Thursday, so it backs up a little bit more. Friday, nobody's doing anything on Friday. They're really just planning for the weekend. So that's really, really small. The restore method is you would have to restore all your data, and then you'd have to put the changes in order each day, because you may have some of the same files modified each day in each one of these. So when you restore incremental, you have to restore the full data and then each incremental in the right order. That's how that works. It can get kind of dangerous, because if you were to lose one of these, then you could only restore Monday's full data, and Tuesdays you couldn't restore Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, because Wednesdays got corrupted. So none of the others would be able to restore. They wouldn't make sense. And that's kind of a danger point there. The other thing that you could be doing, you could just be doing full backups every day. What's the downside to this? Takes up a lot of space. If you're backing up remotely, you would be backing up, in this case, 14 gigabytes every single time. And that's cost money. So if you're using, especially it costs money if you're using an S3 bucket or an AWS cloud account or something like that, because they charge you by how much that you upload. So if you're doing a full one every single day, then you're being charged for 14 gig every day. If you do incremental, notice when I did incremental a week later, I was only charged for 2.5 gig. Think about coming to school. If you had to pay for a full tank of gas every time you came to school every single day, or if you had to fill up every single day and you didn't have to empty your tank and fill it up from scratch, if you only had to top off your tank, it'd be a lot cheaper. And that's the route you'd probably want to go. When you do full backups, it's like you empty your car gas tank and then fill it up with fresh gas every single day. No matter if you drove it 10 miles or you drove it 350 miles, you're emptying your tank. So it's a whole lot more cost effective to only fill up what you've used or pay for your changes. There's another type of backup I've not really seen since they've gone to cloud backup. It's called a differential backup. And the differential backup is quite similar. You have to start with a full backup. But this one has been, they got a full backup, and then differential backs up anything that's changed since the last full backup. And then the next day it backs up everything that's changed since the last full backup, ignoring what was backed up on Tuesday. And then on Thursday, again, it looks at everything that's changed since the last full backup. So each one of them gets slightly bigger. maybe not excessively. They don't like stack and double because you may be changing the same files each day. So you're only backing up what's changed since the first backup. So on Wednesday right here, you may have been modifying the exact same files that were backed up on this day. So they're again, it's got to back them up again too. And if you hadn't, you've added a little bit to it each time, maybe work on adding a new file or something to it. So differential backups grow. There's kind of a benefit there. If you lose them, you don't have to keep these. As long as you got the last one, you've got the full backup and all changes since the full backup. So you're good. You can restore Fridays, and it includes anything that's changed since Monday. That's a little bit different. The incrementals only back up what's changed since the prior day's backup. So they have to be put in order. But differential is completely different. It always keeps looking back at the full backup only. It doesn't pay attention to what's been backed up on other days. It always looks back at what's changes have been done and backs up everything that's changed since the full backup. But I've seen less and less of those, and I've seen them just moving to incremental. So what do I got going on right here? I've got six gig of stuff has changed. So it's been able to read in 33.6 gig, 33.9 gig. Now it apparently is 3% of the 1.2 terabytes total. We've transferred 6.5 gig. We're coming up to 36.1 gig, which is the total amount of actual data stored in that virtual machine. So apparently our virtual machine is probably created with a 200 gigabyte operating system partition and a 1 terabyte data partition, and combined both partitions with data, including the Windows install, is taking up only 36.1 gigs. So if you went logged into that system and looked at the hard drive, there'd be a whole bunch of free space. In this program, of course, why would you want to back up zeros, free space, or nothing? So it's only going to back up the data. And it looks like we have a success. We're still transferring data. It's coming up. Job finished. So my subsequent backup was 7 gig. It's about half the size of a full backup. If I had to restore, I'd have to restore this full backup, then it'd have to restore this one, then it'd have to restore this one. So it's quite a bit. My restore would be kind of slow. Instead of restoring a single 14, 15 gig, I don't know what a full backup would take right now, but it'd probably be between 14 and 18 gig. I'd have to restore this 14, 2.5, and then 7. So you're looking at around 22 gig, 23 gig to have to pull down and restore. A little bit slower. But you also got to think, how often do you have to restore? Very, very rarely, typically. How often do you have to back up? Hopefully backing up at least once a week, if not daily. So that's why you implement incremental, because backing up is so much more common than restoring. So what you're wanting to do is to keep the backup portion as small as possible. And then when you got to restore, of course, your downside, you'll take a little bit longer. But what's the cost effect of that? This system is probably going to back up pretty quickly. So I'm thinking these here back from 2019, I can get rid of them. These here were before I started doing incremental backups. A 1.33 terabyte file. That's a big file. Who's played with the 1.3 terabyte file before? Anybody? Am I shaking your head? No. It's really crazy when y'all go out and get jobs and you run into a database where the database is spanning across several different SANs because it's petabytes in size. And you're like, good Lord, am I supposed to back that up? What do I do with that? So I'm deleting those files because I think I may have upgraded this Veeam from like 9.0 to 9.5 or something, and I found additional features that were available for doing change block backup tracking. These up here are now where I'm doing the change block tracking. Like this one server, the full backup's 150 gig. My first incremental backup on it was 453 meg. So my next incremental backup, not much has changed on that Linux server except for some configuration files and operating system patches. I expect this next incremental backup probably would be about 1.5 gigs in changes. Where's my more substantial one? Let's go look the one that's got terabytes of data. So check this incremental difference out. One day, if I was using AWS, I'd have to pay for 1.33 terabytes. The next day, when I did an incremental, the next week, when I did an incremental, I'd have only had to pay for 3.62 gig. So again, if you think of that as gas money, and you had to buy 1,400 gallons of gas, or the next day, you only had to buy 3.6 gallons of gas, then you're really thinking that I don't want to clean my tank out every day and fill it up. 1,400 gallons of gas would be a lot of money to pay every single day. Like, oh, I only drove a little bit. I can just pay for 3.6 gallons of gas, and I can afford that and fill it up every day. So the same thing when you're backing up. It's like, am I going to pay for sending 1.5 terabytes of data, or do I want to do an incremental and only pay like one lump sum and then do incrementals and only send the changes every time? and it be like 1, 2, 3% of the original total. Okay, well, that's backups. We're running to the point where I'll need to log out and we need to wipe down the computers. But I hope you understand backup concepts. After today. Any questions on backing up? Or why you need to do it? Having gig internet speed and be able to back up to the cloud is nice.
I was supposed to get a gig internet speed at my house, and the company was like, "Oh, you're a house and not a business?" No, and I was like, "Dumb." I looked up my address and was like, "Yeah, what's the speed I can get?" They was like, "Oh, you can get a gigabyte," and I was like, "All right." And I was like, "Can you make it to my house and put it in?" They were like, "Oh, you're at a house, you're a resident?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Okay, you can get 12 megabytes." I was like, I'm willing to pay the price for the 1 gigabyte. I was like, I don't know why you're limiting me just because I'm.
So it's like, can you make it to my home office?
Yeah, honestly. That's right. And they're like, oh, you're trying to work from home, so technically I'm a business.